where writer-artist Mike Mignola's Hellboy world evokes an ever-present sense of apocalyptic doom, his new collection of short stories feels a little more laid back but maintains its gothic and folklore roots. The transcript for this essay is available on my website, witsendpod.com. Quote, "It all started because I wanted to draw a kid bowling with corpses." Mignola himself discusses in the book how it's not a Hellboy universe story. Instead of the world twisting around a main character like Hellboy, Mignola is playing with different types of folklore from around the world. Random short stories where all of these characters have lives of their own. There's nothing linked to the modern day, nothing contemporary. It doesn't feel like there's too much direction, and that's not a detractor. Mignola has talked about how he wanted to make the Hellboy story quieter the further he got into the series. What makes Lands Unknown stand out is how there's no feeling of impending doom of the apocalypse or the need to avoid some prophecy.
I think my brain needs a year of kind of being starved of doing comics. It happened with Hellboy in Hell. I had taken, it ended up being almost 6 years where I was writing the comic and not drawing it. And you can tell at the beginning of Hellboy in Hell that I was chomping at the bit. I was dying to get back and draw comics.
There are references to Ragnarok, but it's not a Hellboy sequel. The second story in the beginning has Hellboy parallels of a dragon destroying the old world. This is one of the first longer projects that Mignola has released without Predator former editor Scott Alley. Since I'm covering BPRD, I'll talk about the real world events in those videos later in the series. Inkers, colorists, and letterers are underappreciated and underdiscussed in the comics making process. Dave Stewart's colors absolutely steal the show here, and the digital lettering by Clem Robins organically blends in with the art. Hellboy has a more flat color style, where Lands Unknown has a more layered, painted look. That painted style can be seen in Stewart's projects like BPRD or Darwin Cook's New Frontier. I won't be the first or last person to say that Mignola and Stewart's styles can look deceptively simple. In terms of coloring, a beautiful story is Immortality is Dust, a Germanic story featuring werewolves with a man wanting to become immortal. It matches up with Odin's sacrifice of his eye for knowledge, being impaled by a spear and hanging from a tree. It goes from grey castles to this red dreamscape with purple trees with hundreds of eyes. There are some characters like Una Crone who have multiple stories. She's a woman facing execution who makes a deal with the devil and becomes a vampire. Robin's lettering has been a joy to go through in these BPRD comics, and his work in Hellboy and Lands Unknown is a different flavor. In Lands Unknown, it's kind of quieter and blends in with the art. Everything mixes together. BPRD is just a louder book than Hellboy and Lands Unknown in general. Just for comparison, I'll show a page from Hellboy, BPRD, and Lands Unknown. All of these are by the same people, except the BPRD page, which has art by Guy Davis. It's not just text and colors on a page, it's adding more life to the story. Going through these Mignola stories, not even looking at his art and writing, it becomes apparent how Stewart and Robins are just as much a part of these stories as Mignola. They're changing up their styles, and it becomes as much of the feel as Mignola's artwork. This wasn't endorsed by Dark Horse or anything. Since I've been going through Hellboy and BPRD, I wanted to cover Mignola's newest project just for comparison. I rarely talk about comics that just came out. The newest book I've talked about in my video essays has been Ultimate Spider-Man. Newer books are usually drenched in hype, but Mignola's work, even though it's new, feels anachronistic.
Didn't have an airplane, or didn't have a car, it didn't have all these things I dreaded when you were working with a writer. You know, you'd get a script and be like, oh, I don't want to draw that, or I don't know how to draw that.
I won't talk about every detail because the book just came out and people should read it for themselves and form their own opinion that way. Not telling people to buy it or not buy it, just talking about it casually. As always, the transcript for this essay and all of my other videos can be found on my website, witsendpod.com. If it's not on there, it's not me. I have an essay on the main Hellboy series, and I'm going through BPRD, so there's already a playlist for my Mignola-themed videos. Share these essays around. Thanks for watching. Chaos ensues.